Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming, and this is the From the Depths designer, and again we are looking at the new missiles, but this, more importantly, we're looking at the new torpedoes. Yes, torpedoes this time, just to show some of the changes that have happened with the new size and torpedo changes. Just to explain a few of them. First off, something that was posted. I'm going to turn the UI on so I can see what's happening. Now, we've got a target out there about 4,600 meters. Now, something had been mentioned, I saw on a post about, and I've seen it myself, with turrets and aiming. So here we've got this is a 2-axis turret, and in here we have a torpedo. And if I just make sure this is on, so this is actually on an active, but it's not aiming at the target. It will not aim at that target very easy. You have to be very specific. It's a bit weird. If I change it to a, say, variable thruster, you see it just aimed straight away, no problem. Started firing, and no problem at all, but it won't aim as a torpedo. Now this one here will straight away, no problems whatsoever. So easy way, the difference is I put a laser combiner on there. So all you've got to do if you have this problem is go to energy weapons, laser combiner, and let's just make sure I am editing this. Aim it the direction you want. Doesn't have to be active or anything, but that will make the torpedo aim directly at your target using the laser accuracy. So that is a good one if you're doing. One of my ships has deck launched torpedoes and I was getting this problem, so I will go and retrofit them with a laser combiner. So that was just one little tip I have. Also, this might be used, I might use this for some dumbfire missiles on a turret, and have them aimed that way and just fire them off. And just so it's just aimed directly at the target, doesn't try to lead them, just fires directly at them, and see how that goes. Next, we're going to follow a similar format as I did last time. Let me just come off building, because we shouldn't need the building anymore, and let's get into my character. Okay, speeds. Okay, so one thing that changed in latest patch has been lifetimes and thrusts, etc., of the various components. So if we just go through these quickly, the torpedo propeller now has a thrust up to 2000, usual ramp up times, etc., but the main difference has been in lifetimes. Now I'm just going to change this back to something else. Let's put a cable drum there for a moment. So a standard medium torpedo has a lifetime of 40 seconds, which is more than the normal missile. Normal missile, if you just put it as a variable thruster, only has 20 seconds. So we're using a torpedo propeller here. Let's put that back up to where it was. Adding a regulator adds 50% on, not as it shows there 60 seconds. So in all cases we will need more regulators for the to get the same sort of range. I think possibly a patch back or so, the fuel usage of a torpedo propeller is also slightly up. So you know, we have got significantly higher, you need more fuel and regulators. I mean, quite a few patches ago you could have one fuel tank and one regulator and it'd go about 5,000. So you know, these particular missiles here I've done for more speed. I have put an explosive couple of explosive warheads, so they are viable. A ballast tank to keep them under the water, a regulator, and some fuel tanks. So they all do have a reasonable range. I could theoretically remove those, but I think that's the minimum requirements for a torpedo, and these all have, I think, about a range of about 3,000. So these are high speedish type of torpedoes. So first of all, the small ones, so you get 4 in a pack. Again, just one fin, maximum thrust, propeller, 2 explosives, so it's not going to do too much HE damage, 800 HE damage, but it's going to be, the aim is to get this quite quick, over a 40-second lifetime. Again, this has 20 seconds base lifetime and 10 seconds for each regulator. I could, you could modify, you could minimize, maximize these a little bit more. You could even theoretically go down to a 1 block torpedo, I think, but you have no, oh no, you'd need 2 blocks. I think the smallest you could possibly have is 2 blocks, because you need sonar, torpedo propeller, fins, fuel tank, but that's without a payload. And you mostly still need a ballast tank and at least explosive warhead. So anyway, we'll fire these off just to get an idea of the speed. So it gets ejected out, and we're up to a good speed of about 80 meters a second. So that's going to be the fastest speed you could expect. Now you could possibly make these a little smaller for your interceptors, and that which we'll look in another episode. We'll look at interceptors. And that will get them up to a good speed to intercept incoming torpedoes, as an example. So 80 meters a second, and how far has that gone at the moment? About 3,000 meters. I think that's going to be running out soon. Yeah, about 3,000 meters. So 80 meters a second, second one, medium. So I managed to reduce the size of this down a little bit more, so it's about the same speed. I'm surprised actually that the small ones to the medium, there isn't a larger speed differential due to drag. Obviously the smaller surface area on the front. The speeds are all relatively similar. If I go to the large one now, and on the large 2 warheads, ballast tank. Didn't worry with a regulator on this, because the standard lifetime is 80 seconds, which is more than enough. We actually need more fuel. The problem with the large one is getting enough fuel in there, not enough regulators. So if I just fire that again, that'll do. So it's 77 it's going up there, nearly 78. So there's not much difference between the maximum speed between the 3 missiles at maximum thrust. Okay, fair enough. That's the situation. That's the maximum speeds we're looking at. But yeah, as I say, the difference between the 3 at maximum speeds, I would have expected theoretically the drag or frontal area of the small to be so much smaller that it would have different effect. Okay, another example of missiles are airdropped missiles. Now there's a couple of things here that need to be taken into account, which are sort of annoying. Now none of these have ejectors. They are just a torpedo, fins, fuel tank, ballast tanks, and a bit more warhead to them. So we got 4. I think that one's, yeah, that's 5, and the small ones, how many's on the small ones? About 5. Now these I was thinking these would be airdropped torpedoes, potentially primarily maybe hunting submarines, or they don't need a long range because the airplanes brought them into range, so they don't need a long distance to them. But it's more just to show that how these work. Now, one, I wouldn't say issue, is but if you see that, it gets ejected forwards. But there's no ejector. I mean, to be honest, I would have liked an option for it to just drop. I think that would have been quite nice for them. If we just follow some of the last ones we did, which was this small one, we can get an idea of their range. To be honest, I think that for airdropped ones, you would only need a range. You could maximise the speed and just give them a range of about 1,000 meters. Get the dropping aircraft in close. But you might want these, say, from a different type of vessel. But I think they'd work okay as an airdropped. So we're getting there. That was the medium at about 2,300. So these have still got a fairly long range, even for an airdropped torpedo. 2,800 roughly. The big one is going to go a little bit further, but not by much, I think. So yep, you can drop them there. They've just got this ejection, so if you do mount them like this, be aware if they're in a bomb bay, which is where I was planning to put them, they won't just drop down. You're going to have to allow for a space in front of them, otherwise they're just going to hit whatever's in front, and if you're unlucky, it's going to explode and blow you up. So these are okay for wing mounted, or if they modify them so that they just don't have an injection, that would also be cool. But we'll see how it goes. So just if you're planning on that, just take that into account, for want of a better word. Okay, next. Okay, this is another little area which was available that I use, but not many other people I don't think use, but I like to use. And that is the two-stage rocket. Now, I tend to use these for anti-submarine usage. So their main use is short range, farming out to go against an enemy submarine. So what they've got is a short range thruster and then the secondary torpedo propeller. Now the short range thruster has a limited duration, so we haven't given it the full 5 seconds. In this case I've taken it down to about 2.5 seconds. And then you've got the normal secondary torp propeller, which has quite a long start delay because you've got the ejection, the burn of the short range, the fall into the ocean, and then the torpedo kicks in. So you've got your fins, you've got your regulator. Now one thing on this, it's all about time. It's going to take time, so regulators are more important than fuel. Generally your fuel's going to last longer than your fuel tank. Sorry, your fuel is going to last longer than your lifetime. But as I say, I tend to use these as top-down anti-sub or anti-target short-range targets. So you need a one turn on them as well, just to turn them onto target. So if we just fire one, just as an example, see which, so that's the large one actually. So you see it gets ejected up, the short range booster then boosts it out to, in this case, about 1,000 meters, and it's then gonna start coming down. And the new sea skimming system that this one turn does. Now someone said it's all about because I hadn't put something on my delay. No, it's just the way the one turn works. That puts it underwater, which in this case is okay, and then it starts taking over tracking and heads towards the target. And if the target was fairly close, that would have been good. So let's see if we can get a different one. So this is one of the small ones which jacks up, fires out, and they come down a little quicker, so I quite like them. They've got a faster turn and coming in at about 800 meters, and then they would start targeting whatever the target was. So anyway, that's the way I tend to use those particular missiles, and then go out to whatever range you want, and you can muck around with them. It's just a it's a way of having torpedoes which are vertically launched. Otherwise, you know, you can't really have a vertically launched torpedo. It will not go anywhere really. And working out always with ejectors is a problem, as I found, because if you always put them, say, to your left or right, what if the target's to the left, it ejects it to the right, and then the torpedo will come back and warp you. So you need the one turn in there. But the only way the one turn will work is if you have a small thrust from something. It's something I like playing with. Some you may find it useful, or just think it's not worth doing, but the module is available, so certainly have a play. Okay, next one is range. Getting these missiles out to the 5,000 meters. Now I've set these all up underwater because my thoughts are this would be for torpedoes. This would be for submarines. So first of all, we do have the small, and as expected, this has got to have a lot of regulators. This is not ideal for long range, I've got to say now, the small torpedo, and we've given it quite a few explosive heads, because if you're going to fire something long distance, you might as well take a lot of HE with you. So yeah, that's been the design I've gone for on here. Ballast tank is to keep it underwater, fair bit of fuel, so, and a reasonable amount of turn. And these have got a range of about 5,000, just over. I think these particular ones have about a range of about 4,600 or so. Just launch them off and track them. So obviously a lot of reduced speed. These are still quite speedy in relation, 45 meters a second, not up to the 80 meters a second that we had on the other torpedoes, but their torpedo speed is higher than normal. To get long range on small torpedoes, you need to use their speed, basically. Try to use that fact that they can get up to higher speeds. Their biggest problem is the regulator value is so low. You need to just get out there quickly. But yeah, so they will get out there to that 5,000. So that's the small torpedo, which is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks long. And here we've got the medium, which I think is 11 blocks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, 12 blocks. Yeah, 12 blocks. 12 blocks long. So it's a similar sort of number of modules. Again, it's got a better lifetime, 180 seconds. Reasonable number of explosives, ballast. Still needs quite a lot of regulators. And the speed is lower than normal. It's just slightly lower than normal. Just seemed to be a good balance I found when I was setting this one up. So if I just fire this one off just as an example. So speed is lower. I'll just let it speed up. So we're looking at 30 meters a second, which does make it keep the detectability down in this particular case. It does help with that, but this will go out to about the, this will actually go beyond 5,000 meters if you really want it to, taking a reasonable, or you can have a bit of a work with the range you really want and just basically put more payload in there. But it's to get that long range, you are reducing it. Then we have the large. So this is the large at there's even more modules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17. I think that's 18 modules. So that's 18 blocks. But we've got a lot of explosive power here. That's 240,000 HE damage. Not the maximum, but it's a lot of HE damage. So it doesn't have as big a problem with the lifetime. I still have put regulators in here, but you can see there's a lot less regulators to fuel balance here. No problem with range as much on these large ones as it seems to be the normality on these. The torpedoes, fairly slow. It's not as slow as you could go, but again, it's a balancing between, if I made it slower, I'd have to put more regulators in to make it last longer. So this seemed to be a reasonable balance. Also, making it slow reduces the detectability range, which could mean it will get closer before it gets detected by the enemy. So if we just fire this one off as well, and we'll see some of the damage this does as well. So getting up 20, where are we going to get to? About 27, 28 meters a second. So it's going to get there eventually. If we head to the actual target, we'll see what damage some of these missiles have done to the target. Won't get to see the small missile, but I think we will get to see what the medium missile here did. In actual fact, if I just pause this, can't see the small missiles hits actually on that. Never mind, let's just let these go through. Knowing my luck, they didn't actually make the range I thought they would. So medium missile. Oh yeah, I've been seeing this a few times. For some reason it seems to be hitting inside, so it's done damage. You can see it's just taken a massive chunk out of the bottom and inside, but the outside appears to be undamaged. So I'm not sure if that's because the HE is going through the hull or what there, but it seemed to hit at one place and the damage seems to be inside, and that possibly what happened with the small missiles as well. So yeah, don't know exactly what's happening there. Seen that a couple of times with some of the torpedoes, but not always. Sometimes you just see a massive great chunk of being taken outside. It could be that the missile is clipping in some way, but you can see it has damaged these, but it was mainly below. Nice big chunk got taken out though. That was about 6 warheads, I think. So let's just see what this big missile does to this bulwark. I've used the bulwark this time rather than the Kingston. One thing on these ships, they're very hollow. Let's put it that way. The outside, there's quite a lot of air gap before anything else critical. So you're not going to do the full 10 meters of damage every time with these big missiles, etc. So this is still coming in. It's just taking a bit of time because it is a bit slow. And here it comes in for that final hit. We can see it's similar, just slightly different position. You can see again that seemed to clip through. And where's it actually damaged? It's actually blown up about halfway in the middle. Now I wasn't necessarily getting that issue earlier, unless it came in a little bit below, but yeah, that's a little unusual, but it has certainly blown out most of that ship. Okay, so but it worked to get out to 5,000 meters without a problem. Okay, the final bit was how big can you go? Well, obviously you can go silly large. Now these are about 25 blocks, so they're quite a large, and I was been testing with them. They're quite a large missile. Everything from a pure explosive doing 400,000 with an 80-meter radius, a pure EMP which is doing where are we? Oh, sorry, a pure fragment, which is just, I think these are just all 180 degree fragment system, just to see what fragment damage was like. And then we had a, oops, sorry, that was the fragment. Let's just get these right ones. So I'm just not quite getting it. Let's see, we've got EMP. So we've got 200,000 EMP damage from the missile. Fragmentation, 10,000 fragment average damage. There's 600 fragments. Now I'm not sure, there is a limit as to how many fragments you can have, and I'm not sure what that is, to be frankly honest, but I do know there is a limit. And this one, which has one explosive just to take out any surface, and then it's got fragments which are from 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, so it's a very targeted fragmentation. I was trying to create effectively like a heat round that would fire fragments inside. 40,000 damage, less fragments, but they're all going to be more focused with that little bit of HE at the beginning. And then finally there was the, couldn't make my mind up, so I gave it an explosive EMP fragment. So just because I couldn't make up my mind which one it would work. So if we just fire these off one at a time at the target. So first was the all or nothing. Well, I would say all or nothing, it's the mixed. Second, we've got the targeted fragment warhead. Then we've got the fragments absolutely everywhere. Giving it about 10 seconds into it. Oh, then we've got the HE is the Big Bang theory. And then we have the EMP. So I will take us up to the other end to see the results of the hits. So the missiles are just about here. The bulwark isn't repaired, but we'll see what it does to this. So first of all, we had the, I couldn't make my mind up, so I put everything in missile, and it's coming slightly from below, just underneath. Did that take the surface ones out? So that did take the surface. I saw some EMP going through. We can see the EMP travelling through there quite nicely. Right, next we had the, I'm just going to pause that for the moment, was the targeted fragmentation. Let's just let that go through. That was my heat equivalent, which seemed to do a fair bit of distance damage, but not quite a lot against the metal. Next was the fragments everywhere missile. It did a bit of damage everywhere, but nothing really conclusive there. Next was the I like high explosives, and it made a big boom as is expected. Let's just see what the damage was from that. But surprisingly not anything massive. I think this mixed one seemed to do more than that one, but maybe that's just me. I think it's hitting that 10-meter range issue. You can see it's must be hit down about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it's hitting about the 10-meter range issue, whereas this one I think also hitting 10 meter, but the other fragments etc. did a little bit more different damage. Now it's the EMP. Let's just see what the EMP can do. I think I've got to look at this from underwater. That's it. I can see the EMP travelling. How far did that travel? It's difficult to see with EMP how far it actually travels, but it seemed to do a bit of damage, but you don't necessarily see the blocks coming off. Okay. Results. Up to you, totally subjective. You'd have to fire hundreds of rounds, to be honest. I think it's inconclusive. There's no one missile which use this and it will blow everything up in one go. You can't. I haven't found yet a bulwark killer missile, a one hit and it's dead type of missile. If I just fire another round off while we're talking, it tends to be, you know, they've all got pluses and minuses, and I think one of the disadvantages against particularly these Onyx Watch is they're not very dense, i.e. there's a lot of gaps in here between the various compartments, and that works well to defend against HE, because the HE explodes on the outside but doesn't really penetrate in very much. but I was actually quite surprised the fragments actually seem to work quite nice. Use a good amount of HE to blow out, like here, blow out the outside so that the fragments can actually penetrate through, and that may be the type of missile I'll be looking at. EMP also did seem to travel reasonably, so my thoughts are I can't make my mind up. Rebalancing some of this might work out as a reasonable missile in my view. But there's no conclusive one is better than the other. The other bit I want to have a look at some point is defences, and that will be the next episode, I think, looking at defending against all these new missiles. And some of that will come down into making a torpedo or missile more stealthy by reducing its speed, reducing its length, so that potentially your defending systems have less time to react to it. Or, as we were looking at for the against the LAM system on the previous video, maybe swarming them with lots of little missiles to overload a ship's defensive capability. Anyway, that's it for this particular episode. So just a look at some torpedoes and some possible options. As I said, I've got possibly two areas I want to look at more. One is the defences against missiles. So just going to look at three areas. One, the LAM systems. Now I will say now I'm not great at doing LAMs. The interceptors, which is the main one I want to look at, and I think also some of the cannons to fire against missiles as well, just to see what they're like. In general, I'm not saying I'm going to build the best things, but we're just to see how they work, how people are going to have to maybe change a few items on them to make them work. But that'll be next episode, and then maybe I'll look at aircraft dropped bombs specifically. I quite like the idea of building some bombers, so either space launched or high flying aircraft launched various bombs, just to have a bit of a work and a play with those. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, leave the comments down below, have a discuss if you want about what you think about these, but as always, keep playing the game and have fun.